expectations for next season? Just open like that.
Not the first round. They got to hit. You want to contend, of course. And it is a young team. It kind of depends on what they do. If they run it back, I for sure you have to get past the first round if you run it back. That's just me personally. The second round, again, it depends, matchup dependent, but I want to see them contend next year. We're at that point where this team should be close to contending. If you run it back, I can't say they're going to win a title just off of experience alone. It's hard to. But if they go and get a KD guy, a KD caliber player, the expectation is championship, in my opinion, because you don't get a player like that to not win a championship. So that's my take.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Yeah, I think from a wins perspective, I think 56 should be the floor, 56, 58.
I agree.
Just because you're going to bank on natural improvement from those guys. You're going to bank on some of those clutch games that they lost and trying to figure out, how to better navigate those things. Obviously, if you get Kevin Durant, that's going to increase your wins by 4 by itself, just having him there. So yeah, I do think they can't have another one of these first round exits though. Like you said, that's not going to cut it. Mm-hmm. Like it was like this year, like we gave them grace because you went up against a Warriors team that's been there, done that. But you did lose a game 7 on your home floor. That's still you still were the number 2 seed, so you still have to own that part of the mistake. But I do think next season should be a much better in terms of their prospects, outlook, league-wide respect, and just overall cachet.
Yeah,
I know that like sometimes teams improve and their record may not get better or improve. So because there's all types of things like injuries that can take place and whatnot that can impact your record. But overall, the team needs to be better. I think a huge benchmark of that is like what Brad said is when they get to the postseason, if we're healthy, we need to get out the first round. And I look at the Western Conference right now. I look like you talk about adding KD to this team. I think we beat the Warriors. I don't think we go to 7 if we have KD on this team against the Warriors. And then that means we're now playing the Timberwolves in the second round. And that was a team I actually thought we matched up well without KD. So now you throw in KD to the mix. I like my chance against Minnesota. And now I'm talking about in the conference finals against OKC. And so like I think that's the mentality you have to have with this roster is like we're OKC, obviously we're seeing injuries with nobody, but let's say Jalen Williams comes down with an injury next year and he can't play in the playoffs, right? Or you get a lucky break. They should be looking at like we're a lucky break away from going to the finals and making some noise. And you may not get that far. Obviously, you may stop at the conference finals or somewhere sort of that. But just that mentality, that putting yourself in a position to do that, I think that should be the goal. And then like one of the things I'm really looking forward to seeing next year is just kind of how they plan to integrate Reed Shepherd into the mix, because I think he is somebody who I am decently high on. I think his skill set is that of which we need. There's not that many guys in the league, let alone on this roster, who, but we don't have anybody on our roster, honestly, who's able to hit threes at, ideally hit threes at the clip that Reed can hit threes at, and then run the pick and roll. There's not many guys in the league. There's not a guy on this roster who can do that. And so we're able to see that potential from him and develop into that player. That's a different dynamic to this team that adds a different layer that we don't have. And like, that's a coveted archetype, man. So like I said, that's not that many guys in the league who can do that. So I'm interested to see how they kind of start bringing that out of Reed Shepherd. If that's the plan.